community of Ekurhuleni, the community of Gauteng. Allow me to observe all the protocols because the program director has actually outlined all the guests that are actually here, all protocol observed. Good evening. Mr. President, we begin our day today with a prayer at the Anglican Church of Resurrection in Wardville, followed by a wreath-laying at the Tambo Cemetery, a solemn tribute at the very site that holds OR Tambo spirit and lasting influence. It is from that place of reflection that we now continue here, where we carry forward his values, where we'll discuss his vision, where we'll also renew our commitment to the ideals he held so dear. It is my privilege, Mr. President, to welcome you and this entire membership of the ANC, of the Alliance, this community of Ekurhuleni, to this OR Tambo Memorial Lecture. May today's discussion reinvigorate our political consciousness and inspire us to bring a spirit of restoration in all our work we do to better the lives of our people. And I'm using restoration because the national chair would have emphasized this point in the morning, just to demonstrate that we do take the message of the leadership forward. Mr. President, it was pride that I report our efforts in the city of Ekurhuleni and in this region to keep the legacy of OR Tambo alive and resonate in the lives of our communities. Today, the heart of governance in Ekurhuleni sits OR Tambo, a government precinct, a designation that Tambo was a powerful, or a designation that the symbol, it is not just merely a symbol, but a powerful reaffirmation of our dedication to the principles Tambo held dear, which are integrity, which are accountability, which are servicing the people, to name but a few. From our recent Lekgotla, Mera Lekgotla, we have taken another meaningful step by committing to the refurbishment of the OR Tambo Narrative Center located in Wardville and further expanding the OR Tambo Cultural Precinct concept. And this iconic space is central to our tourism development strategy designed to bring visitors from across the globe to experience the life and times of Africa's most revered statesmen. Additionally, we will now place special emphasis on supporting the OR Tambo Special Economic Zone, the SCZ, and this zone, which aligns our vision for sustainable growth, will enable Ekurhuleni to become a hub for hydrogen fuel cell technology and green energy production, creating jobs, empowering our local communities. Program Director, we also stand firmly behind the vision of establishing the University of Science, of Innovation, of Engineering, in Ekurhuleni. And the announcement by President Ramaphosa during his 2020 State of the Nation address to bring this educational beacon to our city was met with immense celebration by the people of Ekurhuleni. However, we take this moment to respectfully propose the naming it in memory of the giant of the struggle. And I think we must do this so that we fast-track efforts. We hear that some forums have actually announced, and now they're even launching a second university when we've not moved to actually ensure that we turn the sword to actually launch officially this university. And let it be called OR Tambo University of Science and Innovation, a fitting tribute to a leader whose legacy continue to aspire knowledge and knowledge generation. And I know this is a critical platform, of course. We'll be holding the second symposium of the university, and we'll use those platforms to actually lobby for this name to be officially adopted. Comrades and friends, as the Minister of Minerals, Resource and Energy, our chairperson, Utata Ugweda Mantashe, correctly emphasized in his keynote address earlier, this epoch calls for a profound restoration of unity, of integrity, and shared purpose. No more than ever, we must renew our commitment to the values of comradeship, of unity, and accountability within our ranks in every sphere where we have been entrusted to serve. Guided by the spirit of collaboration that drives the government of national unity, Ekurhuleni proudly stands as a model of political stability, moving steadily towards a local government of unity dedicated to the well-being of all residents. At this moment of renewal, let us stand together to strengthen the bonds of unity and purpose that OR Tambo envisaged for our nation. Program Director, in closing, I want to set a reflective tone for this gathering, urging us to embody the selflessness that President OR Tambo exemplified. In his powerful 1971 New Year message, Tambo reminded us of our responsibility by saying, "We who are free to eat and sleep at will, to write, to speak, to travel as we please, we who are free to make and break a revolution, let us use our comparative freedom not to perpetuate the misery of those who suffer, nor give indirect aid to the enemy by withholding our contribution." Close quotes. These words challenges us to serve with purpose and compassion. May we carry forward his legacy by dedicating ourselves wholeheartedly to the people as he did. Let us continue to work together, lifting those in need, strengthening our communities, and honoring the vision OR Tambo held so dear, close to his heart. Thank you very much, Program Director. You are all welcome to this beautiful city, the city.
Comrades, i-renewal sifuna ngenkathi. I-renewal sihamba nayo. And i-renewal iqala manje. Bathanda bangathandi, there's only one movement amongst many movements. And the colors of that movement are very simple. Black, green, and gold. Ayikho enye nje. So we are proud that today we are indeed honoring President Oliver Reginald Tambo. Please allow me, comrades, he's not only the leader of our movement, he's the leader of our government. He's not only flying the flag of our country on international stage, he's about to assume a very important position of chairing the G20 as it comes to our country. This is the leader that has taken the interest of our country beyond imagination. A leader that has stood firm where firmness was needed, and a leader that has provided leadership where leadership was needed. Comrades, clap and rise for the President of the African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa. His Excellency.
Mandla. Amandla. Amandla. Matla. Matimba. Manda. Mandla. Amandla. Amandla. Viva ANC, viva! Long live the spirit of Oliver Reginald Tambo, long live! Mandla! Program Chair, Program Director rather, the Tambo family, the Deputy President of the African National Congress, members of the National Executive Committee, the officials of the African National Congress, NEC members, and alliance leaders here present, ministers and deputy ministers, MECs of our province and PEC members, the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni, members of the diplomatic corps, and all residents of Ekurhuleni. Ke a le dumedisa kaofela lebitsong la African National Congress. Ha le mpona ke le tjena ke apere tie e ntle, ke latela ntho e ne e etswa ke modulasetulo wa ANC hoseng kajeno lena, Comrade Mantashe, o na ile kerekeng a apere sutu a le motle. Ke batla le ho leboha le meyara wa rona le yena o apereng sutu e ntle le tie. Secretary General le yena o apere tsona tse disutu tsa hae, empa ba senya ka o kenya kepisi. modula stulo wa province ya rona yena la mo tseba he o dula apere ka yona tsela ena. Comrades, it's a joy and a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the provincial leadership and the regional leadership for arranging this memorial lecture, but also thank the Secretary General and his office for arranging that the whole NEC should be present tonight. So, comrades, we meet here in the presence of the National Executive Committee, which has been meeting for the past 3 days. Tomorrow, the NEC continues to receive the first foundational lecture course, the foundational course, which is going to be a requirement for all members of the ANC. So we are starting with the National Executive Committee tomorrow, and thereafter it will be spread throughout the country when every member of the African National Congress will be required to go through this course to qualify as a member of the ANC. Comrades, we're here tonight to remember a great leader of our movement. It has been said that the legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example. We are gathered as we are here, inheritors of a great example that was set by our leader, Oliver Reginald Tambo. Today marks 107 years since the birth of OR Tambo, who was the longest serving president of the African National Congress. He was a hero whose great name is forever and indelibly inscribed in the hearts and the minds of the people of South Africa and the people of our continent, Africa. He left behind a towering legacy. His life was a fine example of what it means to be a true revolutionary, a principled leader, a bridge builder, and a true servant of the people of South Africa. We remember OR Tambo at a time when we have lost a number of stalwarts of our liberation movement. They were part of the illustrious generation that birthed our freedom, and we cannot but be mindful that we are witnesses of the passing of an era of leaders who were prepared to sacrifice their lives, their livelihoods, and the comforts of life for the freedom of our people. When President Nelson Mandela delivered his eulogy at the funeral of OR Tambo, he said, "I say that Oliver Tambo has not died because the ideals for which he sacrificed his life can never die." He went on to say that Oliver Tambo has not died because the ideals of freedom, human dignity, and a colorblind respect for every individual cannot perish. I say he has not died because there are many of us who became a part of his soul and therefore willingly entered into a conspiracy with him for the victory of his cause. While the ANC lives, he said, Oliver Tambo cannot die. And yet, comrades, we know that it is incumbent on us to borrow of the light that Oliver Tambo shared, to draw from the lessons of his life and to learn from his example. We celebrate his life and reflect on his leadership at a crucial inflection point in the history of our movement and our country. We recall among his many achievements, his preeminent role in mobilizing the world against apartheid. We recall his role in the adoption of the Harare Declaration, which paved the way for our negotiated transition to democracy. Today, we have a government of national unity that has coalesced around a common agenda for economic growth, transformation, and social progress. Even as the GNU, led by the ANC, continues to make progress on charting a new development path, the electoral outcome, as we went through it, put the ANC where it is today. Africa's oldest liberation movement, the movement of John Langalibalele Dube and Chief Albert Lutuli, of Oliver Tambo, Lillian Ngoyi, Mama Albertina Sisulu, Tata Walter Sisulu, and Nelson Mandela, is facing severe challenges. We cannot but put this plainly. Support for the African National Congress has declined. Our mandate to govern has narrowed. The trust deficit between us and the people has widened. The ANC is facing a crisis of authority, of legitimacy, and trust. There are some in our country who would want to write the ANC's obituary. We have all seen the headlines, the policy papers, and the think tank discussions following the May election. We have all heard the talk about a party that is in decline. We've heard about the ANC now joining the pantheon of national liberation movements that have, in quotes, failed in governance. All this said of an ANC that over the past 30 years has brought about deep, fundamental, and lasting change to the lives of millions of South Africans. An ANC that has lifted millions out of absolute poverty. An ANC that has implemented policies and programs to expand access to education, healthcare, and basic services. All this is said about an ANC that has transformed labor relations and advanced gender equality in our country. This is Oliver Tambo's ANC that continues to implement policies to bring about transformation of our economy so that all may share in its benefits and opportunities. This is an ANC that has been the custodian of our country's constitution and has used the instruments of government it leads to uphold human rights and the fundamental freedoms for all. All this progress, all this change, and yet we find ourselves here today. We would be naive, comrades, to assume there are not those too willing to take advantage of our weakened state and to exploit the ANC's internal divisions for their advantage. And so, as we gather here today to celebrate and to commemorate the life of Oliver Tambo, it is not enough to merely reflect on a legacy that is now more significant than ever. We must use this opportunity to gain deeper insight into the context in which he led our movement, the similarities between then and now, and the lessons that we can draw from his experience. The foremost of these is that an ANC weakened is not an ANC destroyed, much as they would want to see so. Oliver Tambo was entrusted by the African National Congress leadership to leave the country and to go and rebuild the organization at a time when all efforts were being made by the apartheid regime and its allies to suppress and crush and finish the ANC. And yet the ANC prevailed, and we are here today. The ANC has prevailed in the face of existential crises throughout its history. It has overcome periods of organizational decay, of factionalism, of intense state repression, and of the divide and rule tactics employed by the regime. It has also survived splits that have happened throughout its history. Many organizations that are out there today split from the African National Congress. And as they split, they thought that they would surpass the African National Congress of Oliver Tambo. They never will. Speaking at the ANC's 48th National Conference in Durban in 1991, OR Tambo reflected on this resilience when he said, "Despite all schemes aimed at destroying our movement, we grew both in stature and effectiveness. Our survival and growth as a fighting force is the major victory that our people have scored under difficult conditions of illegality." The ANC has prevailed in the democratic era. It has prevailed even as it has encountered significant challenges from opponents of transformation and those who are intent on preserving the economic status quo. It has confronted the challenges of those who try to divide it and to weaken the alliance. It has resisted the challenges of anti-progressive forces who want to derail the national democratic revolution. From divide and rule under a new guise that has seen the splintering of our movement, both in the earliest days of democracy and in recent times, we would be dishonest if we did not acknowledge that in many respects, we have become our own worst enemy, though. 30 years since we achieved our liberation, our biggest challenge is the loss of confidence of our people in the ANC's ability to lead the transformation of society. This was something Oliver Tambo foresaw at the second Pan-African Youth Seminar in Dar es Salaam, in 1961. He said, "When we reach that stage for which we are struggling, then that which binds us together will be removed and a new set of problems will arise." He went on to say, although perhaps we have a simple problem at the moment, the simple one of simply becoming free, complicated only by the need to find various methods of dealing with the situation, we find on attaining independence, we still have not solved our problems. In the May elections, the people of South Africa sent a very strong message to us that they are dissatisfied with the slow pace of change. Poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment persist. Unemployment is diminishing the prospects of an entire generation. Crime and insecurity threaten to undermine our democratic order. The scourge of corruption is depriving our people of the services that are their right. The most serious existential threat we face as the ANC comes from within. Our movement has been ridden with factional activity, naked careerism, and personal ambition. It has in recent times been characterized by ill discipline, political intrigue, ideological rifts, and rising intolerance of divergent viewpoints. Scholars of ancient history and those with a keen interest in its study will tell you how internal decay contributed to the fall of many a great institution. The extensive body of scholarship on the fall of ancient Rome, for example, points to how it was eventually rent apart, not by one large seismic event, but by thousands of small cuts. Corruption on the part of elites, political intrigue, growing inequality, factionalism, these are all the small cuts that are wounding our movement. We are at a great critical point as a movement. We need to take a critical look at ourselves and what must be done to reclaim the trust of our people. OR Tambo was not just a leader of the ANC. He was also its conscience and its voice. He defended the ANC right. He defended its policies and its positions. He never allowed himself to be dictated to by a prevailing narrative pressuring the ANC to back down. This was even in the face of relentless criticism, paternalism, and arrogance on the part of those who claim to be friends of the people of South Africa. We must ask ourselves today whether, in the face of the electoral losses, we have allowed ourselves to be ideologically disarmed. Even as the Government of National Unity continues with its work, we must be clear that our revolutionary program of action has not been discarded or deferred. At the Kabwe conference of the ANC in 1985, Oliver Tambo called on all South Africans irrespective of their race, to take their place in the revolution under the banner of the ANC. This was an urgent and foremost task. To do so, we must press ahead ourselves with the project of renewing and rebuilding our movement. So how then do we harness Oliver Tambo's legacy effectively to rebuild the ANC? We must start by looking at who is the ANC today. Who are the people who fill our ranks and occupy positions of leadership? Are they detachments of OR Tambo, loyalists to our movement and adherents to the ANC's founding principles? Or are they just careerists, factionalists? Or are they just people who want positions to line their own pockets and advance their own interests? In the 1985 January 8th statement, OR Tambo posed the following question: who are these revolutionary cadres about whom we speak? Where are they? They are not special people. It is we, men and women, young and old, black and white, who are involved in daily struggles, making sacrifices in pursuit of the people's cause. As OR Tambo's example taught us, it is not enough just to call yourself a comrade or a revolutionary. It is not enough to dress in military fatigues, quote revolutionary writers, or chant empty slogans, or sing at the highest pitch of your voice. We have to have revolutionary morality. Revolutionary morality means selflessness. It means self-sacrifice. It means also being principled and ethical in all our affairs. It means being humble, not being arrogant. It means really and seriously putting the interests of the movement and the interests of the people of South Africa first. We do need to be serious about our efforts to rid our movement of elements that bring the ANC into disrepute. We must recruit only the most committed and sincere into our ranks. Now, the foundational course that starts tomorrow is a major step in the life of our movement that is going to lead us in that direction. That those who become ANC members must be ANC members or people who are well steeped in the principles of the African National Congress. We must also ensure that only the most capable and honest and conscientious are elected into positions of leadership. Sometimes when we elect people, yes, we take them to various positions merely because they are well known, merely because they've got beautiful sounding names, or maybe because of their good looks. We need capable and conscientious leaders. As we work to improve the caliber of our membership and leadership, we must give renewed and urgent attention to rebuilding our structures. The National Executive Committee in the past 3 days has spent a considerable amount of time talking about renewal and rebuilding the African National Congress and making sure that our structures are the type of structures that will be able to take us forward so that the ANC can be strong and be able to win the next elections decisively, without any doubt. Now, OR Tambo was an organization builder. At the ANC's National Consultative Conference in 1990, OR Tambo called on the leaders of the movement to build the ANC and other democratic formations as never before. No single town, he said, no single village or street, or indeed house, should be left unorganized. He called on the ANC to organize workers in factories, worshippers in religious centers, students in centers of education, farm workers, and everyone into the African National Congress. All South Africans, he said, black and white, should be organized into a mighty vehicle of liberation, he declared. OR was firm that the ANC branch should play an active and central role in the lives of our communities, that the branch should lead the process of recruiting new members, of cadre development, focus on training and political education. Following his direction, we must ensure that the ANC branches are indeed centers of political activism, working with our communities to address their challenges and to respond to their needs. We have found that where an ANC branch is involved in the life of the people in the community where it exists, people in the community rally behind the ANC. It is, as it currently stands, the ANC branch is seen by elements within our movement as a step ladder to higher office, its members to be bought and to be traded. Rebuilding the ANC from the ground up into the mighty vehicle of liberation that Oliver Tambo envisaged means restoring the non-racial character of our movement. Oliver Tambo was determined that the ANC should be a truly non-racial organization and that this should reflect in its membership and its support. And this, comrades, is what we need to do to ensure that the ANC becomes once more attractive to all the people of South Africa. We must, as a movement, ask ourselves, what are we doing to attract South Africans of all races to the ANC who identify with our mission? None of this can be achieved without a united ANC. Speaking at the second Pan-African Youth Seminar in Dar es Salaam, as I said earlier in 1961, he said, there are a welter of problems peculiar to the state of political advancement known as independence. How to tackle these, he asked. I still think that the key answer is unity. He went on to say, I think true and lasting unity, as opposed to the unity we may seek at a given time for the achievement of a certain purpose, is one which is conceived on the basis of the essential oneness of mankind, humankind, he would have said today, based on what is basically a common human problem. OR did not believe in unity for unity's sake. Speaking at this same conference, he said, unity must be a tired word rather. Unity must be a tired word, overused everywhere by everybody. We're always talking of unity. I think the important thing to raise here, he continued, is that unity does not grow wild. Tanganyika, he was talking about Tanzania then, is a rich country. All of Africa is rich. There's plenty that grows wild. You don't have to cultivate it. You don't have to water it, to nurse it. But unity is not like that, he continued. It does not grow wild. It has to be nurtured, it has to be built up, or it wears away. It must be doctored, treated. It also has many enemies, like the enemies that enter any plant that you grow. You have to keep vigilant against these. We must be forever vigilant that some amongst us are using the cover of unity as an excuse to try to get away with a whole range of dishonest actions. As the ANC, we must be clear that unity is not a catch-all phrase. As OR himself asked, where does unity begin and where does it end? Unity begins when we coalesce around a common set of values and principles that define the character and the mission of the ANC. Unity cannot extend to those who repudiate or act against the values of the ANC. Unity cannot extend to a member or a leader of the ANC that has proven themselves to be self-serving or even corrupt. Unity cannot embrace those who lack any form of revolutionary discipline, who refuse to abide by the decisions of the movement, and even take it to court when they don't agree with some of the decisions. Now, unity cannot also embrace those who take their personal fights and battles to the pages of newspapers or social media. In 1980, OR Tambo said that our unity has to be based on honesty among ourselves, the courage to face reality, and adherence to what has been agreed upon. At this moment, principled unity is, comrades, what is called for, not unity for unity's sake. Achieving and realizing a truly equal and free society was never going to happen overnight. If we lay claim to be inheritors of the mantle of the great Oliver Tambo, we must reclaim our movement not just in words, but in deed. Only a strong, united ANC can lead this country to true transformation and equality. We must, as a collective, demonstrate that we are serious about the program of renewal and commit ourselves to it once and for all. At the ANC's 48th conference, OR Tambo said, "We did not tear ourselves apart because of lack of progress at times. We were always ready to accept our mistakes and to correct them. Above all, we succeeded to foster and defend the unity of the ANC and the unity of our people in general. Even in bleak moments, we were never in doubt regarding the winning of freedom. We have never been in doubt that the people's cause shall triumph." It is upon us, comrades, to take courage from these words that are as true today as when they were spoken. As the African National Congress today, we have a clear mandate to embark on the task of renewal of our movement and indeed society as a whole. This is a strategic task that calls for leadership collectives with a deep understanding of the organization that we need to build for the future. OR Tambo also said, "It is very important that our leadership, by which we mean all those whom we consider the most mature amongst our ranks, must begin to involve itself directly in this work of internal organizational building. We have to be in daily contact with our people. Clearly, renewal is a responsibility that needs a leadership that is engaged with its organizational processes. We all have to steer this organization by ensuring that every program and activity is anchored on a solid organizational machinery. We are fortunate to have inherited an organization that has wall-to-wall coverage in our country. There is nowhere you can go in South Africa today and not find the African National Congress. Wherever you go, you will find the ANC. Wherever you go, you'll find people who support the African National Congress. What we need is quality leadership that is evident in its conduct and its clarity of thought and in the meticulous execution of its programs. Visionary and dynamic leadership collectives should be at the cutting edge of organizational renewal. Now, leadership is not a social status. It is a call to act, to serve, and to inspire. The renewal of the ANC calls for leadership that continuously feels the pulse of society. I argued very strongly in the NEC, and the decision of the NEC was that members of the National Executive Committee, members of the Provincial Executive Committee, members of the Regional Executive Committees, members of our leaders of our zones must immediately immerse themselves in the life of our organization and spread themselves and be amongst our people. That is what we should do. Leaders should not be strangers to their communities. Now, at times, particularly during the election campaign, as we went around, sometimes you'd find that even those who have been either elected in various positions, councillors and otherwise, at times they are not even known by members of the community. And why is that so? Why is that so? Because they don't go and be close to our communities. They don't immerse themselves in the lives of our communities. Now, leaders, whatever level we occupy, we must be amongst our people. And we must be connected with our people in order for us to earn the right to lead. Leaders must not be tourists amongst our people. Now, this will ensure that we know what the plight of our people are. This will ensure that we know and fully understand what the needs of our people are, what their sufferings are. The policies that we develop cannot be at variance with the needs of our people. In his address to the extended meeting of the ANC National Executive Committee in April in 1975, OR said, "We must together assume responsibility for the leadership of our struggle and for the involvement of all our members and people. The ANC must be turned into an efficient and high-powered machine able to lead a mighty and victorious struggle." Nearly a half century later, this remains our task. As we undertake this task, let us continue to be inspired by OR's life and contribution. We should give effect to his enduring legacy. We should renew his vision, and we should make sure that we restore his principles. We should rebuild his movement so that this movement of OR Tambo can rise. At this moment, I find inspiration in the words of the US poet Maya Angelou, who said, "Out of the hearts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream, I am the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise." From the decisions, now, from the decisions that we have taken today as the National Executive Committee to rebuild and renew our movement, and from the dreams and the hopes of our people, from the gifts from our ancestor, Oliver Reginald Tambo, the gifts that he has given us, we too, the inheritors of this great legacy from OR Tambo, we are called upon to rise. We are called upon to get the ANC to rise. The National Executive Committee took a fundamental decision today about the rebuilding of the African National Congress, and clearly saying that all of us, it's all our task. It's not only the task of the Secretary General to build this organization. It is our collective task. each one of us must get engaged in the building of this organization so that it can rise. And rise it can. OR Tambo did very, very clearly tell us that the ANC has been resilient over the years. All attempts to weaken it, all attempts to bring it down have failed. And we, as members and leaders of the ANC, must not fail this great organization of OR Tambo. We must be true inheritors of OR's legacy, to work hard to make sure that this organization does indeed rise. And rise it shall. Amandla! Forward with the African National Congress, forward. Amandla!
Sabong President, thanks. Comrades, we'll have a musician, but I hope, Comrade SG, that our DIP will really do justice to this speech by our president, and that they are going to ensure that this speech goes across our structures and our movement. Thank you, President. That was powerful. Thank you so much, President. So, okay. Yeah. Let's have the last video and then we'll have music. Please come quickly. Chief Whip of Ekurhuleni, please be standby. We'll quickly take you after all this. Let's take the last video. Sabonga Makawan. Ozamfowethu, shaya saxophone yakho quickly as we welcome the Chief Whip of the municipality to come and do a vote of thanks. Ubani igama lakho so nakusasa masukufuna sazi lana.
Jazzy Soul, Jazzy Soul.
Oh, Jazzy Soul. Comrades, let's just give Jazzy Soul a moment. Jazzy Soul.
Manja! Manja! Amanda! 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 Long live the tank spirit of OR Tambo! Long live! Long live the tank spirit of Mama! Long live! Thank you very much, Program Director, President of the ANC, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, NEC members present, the PEC of the ANC in Gauteng, led by Comrade Panyaza Lisufi, the RTT of the ANC Guruleni, led by Comrade Kosindi Pile Kagaza, the ANC's chaplaincy, the Tambo family, distinguished guests, branches of the African National Congress, all protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all. In just under a minute, I want to thank the President because except for him, many of us were together at the commemoration and wreath laying of Comrade OR Tambo this morning. So we want to thank you, President Ramaphosa, for embodiment of President Tambo, who steered the ship not just in good times, but during the challenging periods of our revolutionary discourse. This is evidenced through your leadership of the country during the unprecedented COVID-19 period, and now the government of national unity. It can only take unmeasured commitment and skills to navigate your way and lead the country into the current period of stability. A stark resemblance of the character and qualities called upon to provide leadership when the movement is going through difficult times. As I conclude, let me remind all of us the words OR Tambo, I quote, "The fight for freedom must not go on until it is won. Until our country is free and happy and peaceful as part of the community of men, we cannot rest." Close quote. We must continue this work, for it is unfinished. No matter how difficult the renewal program of the ANC might be, it is the program that you must undertake in memory of OR Tambo, and we are confident that under your leadership, President, the ANC shall be renewed As part of this renewal, we have revived our relationship as Ekurhuleni with the Alfred Join OR Tambo municipalities, where President OR Tambo was born and raised. We do this because we are unable to celebrate our freedom fighters and struggles heroes when we're not in charge of government. It must have been a shameful moment to have counter-revolutionary forces to stand and speak on top of President Tambo's grave and our ancestors in other grave sites. We must renew the ANC and never rest until we have returned the movement to the state in which OR Tambo handed over to us. Amanda! Amanda! Long live the undying spirit of Mama Adelaide. Long live! Thank you for the encouragement.
Amandla! Amandla! Just few announcements, comrades, we are done. Comrades, as you leave the wall or where we are, as you go out, go into our transport, there will be some strategic packages that have been prepared for you. Wow. So, comrades, because of time, you don't want to arrive late at home. So, the strategic packages are pre-packed, so you just go and take them to the transport. Saswana Makaban. Before I allow President and the NEC to take leave, will allow a saxophonist to come, and President, you can politely, respectfully so take leave with the leadership. Thank you so much. Comrades, when the saxophonists come in. Thank you, comrades.